Hello there and welcome to this video. Today I want to talk about one of my favorite games, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. No, the other one. Well known and well loved by many, this game tells the tale of one of Hyrule's earliest heroes, the Hero of Time, who traverses the stream of time between two time periods to save Hyrule from the Demon King Ganondorf. He travels between the peaceful land of his childhood and the badlands of his adolescence, where the Demon King rules supreme. But what exactly happened to connect these two time periods together? How did things go from the moment Link, the hero of time, pulls the Master Sword from the pedestal of time until his awakening 7 years later? These are the questions this video concerns itself with, as I want to go into the events of this 7-year gap. How did the Demon King rise to power? And what did his rule look like for the people of Hyrule as the hero slept? Let's get into this, but first a bit of background. The Kingdom of Hyrule was long known as the kingdom where the power of the gods rested. At the time of creation, the three golden goddesses, Din, Nehru and Feanor, each created a symbol of their own power in the form of golden triangles. These triangles were known as the Triforce, and when one touched them, their wish would be granted, albeit if the person who touched it had a balance of power, wisdom, and courage in their hearts. These were the values represented by the three pieces of the Triforce, as well as the goddesses that made it. The object was left in the world created by the golden goddesses for the sake of its stability, as without it, the world would crumble, and it was theorized that it was also left to give hope to the mortal creatures of the land. Hyrule was the land of the Hylians, a tribe of people with pointy ears that were said to be able to hear the voices of the gods, with the name of their people and their kingdom tracing back to their patron goddess, Hylia. During the early years of Hyrule, the Triforce was kept within the kingdom. However, word of its wish-granting power spread and sparked many wars. Due to this, the royal family of Hyrule commanded 7 sages to seal the Triforce in the Sacred Realm. This was a world that formed a closed off space, and so could not be reached if its entrance was shut. The ancient 7 sages thus placed the Triforce in the Sacred Realm and constructed the Temple of Time around its entrance, which was sealed off with the legendary Master Sword and the Door of Time. Only one holding the keys to the Door of Time, and with the capacity to pull the Master Sword from its pedestal, would be able to enter the Sacred Realm and claim the Triforce. This act stopped the wars over the Triforce, though peace did not find the kingdom. War over the Triforce ended, but other wars still raged. These wars ended when the incumbent king of Hyrule unified the country, presumably putting most of Hyrule's people under his banner: the Gorons of Death Mountain, the Zoras who protected the source of Hyrule's waters, and the Kokiri and Great Deku Tree who inhabited the Lost Woods. These peoples each held a spiritual stone as well, that served as keys to the Door of Time, likely gifted to them when the Temple of Time was finished. The remaining keys, the Ocarina of Time and the Song of Time, were held by the royal family. There were other peoples as well, however, who had felt the repercussions of the wars. The Sheikah were a tribe who had served the royal family of Hyrule for ages, this tradition tracing back to their servitude of the goddess Hylia, the royals' divine ancestor. The prolonged wars had greatly diminished their numbers, and so their leader, Impa, opened their ancestral village of Kakariko to the Hylians. In the western deserts lived the Gerudo, a race of women, who gave rise to a single man every 100 years, who was to become their king. They lived off thieving and were often at odds with the kingdom of Hyrule. It was among these people that lived twin witches, Kum and Kotake, who were around 400 years of age. They were the surrogate mothers of Ganondorf, the Gerudo king of his age and the incarnation of the hatred of Demise, a demon king who had waged war for the Triforce before Hyrule's founding. They likely informed him about the legends of the Triforce, as Ganondorf came to desire the object in his adult years. Desiring to rule the world, Ganondorf started the search for the keys of the Sacred Realm. He sought out the holders of the spiritual stones and cursed each, while also starting to infiltrate the royal family. At the same time, forces in Hyrule picked up on the evil climate descending on the realm. Link set out on a quest to obtain the spiritual stones before Ganondorf, so he could claim the Triforce first. Spurred by the Great Deku Tree and Princess Zelda, he was successful and lifted the curses placed by Ganondorf, and also obtained the Ocarina of Time and Song of Time. However, when he opened the Door of Time and pulled the Master Sword from its pedestal, he was put to sleep for 7 years because he was deemed too young to become the Hero of Time. This allowed Ganondorf to infiltrate the Sacred Realm, and this is where our story begins in earnest. When Ganondorf entered the Sacred Realm, he made his way to its center, where the Temple of Light was situated. There the Triforce rested, and he touched it. However, he did not possess a balance of power, wisdom, and courage. Due to this, the Triforce split into three. Ganondorf was left with the Triforce of Power, because he believed most in that virtue. The Triforce of Courage went to the sleeping Link, and the Triforce of Wisdom went to Princess Zelda, who had gone into hiding with Impa in this time. They received these pieces because they were newly chosen by the gods to do so. Ganondorf, upon acquiring the Triforce of Power, became a Demon King, and the Sacred Realm became a realm of evil, because it reflected the contents of his heart. Dark power also started flowing out of 5 temples within Hyrule, which were connected to 5 of the 7 sages. 2 of these temples, the Forest Temple in the Lost Woods and the Spirit Temple in the Western Desert, had already become victim of Ganondorf's influence at this time as well. Spirit Temple had been made into a stronghold by Kulm and Kotake, where they turned Gerudo women into iron knuckles via brainwashing, so they could serve Ganondorf. Among them was Nabooru, Ganondorf's right-hand man, who opposed his thieving tactics. The Forest Temple, meanwhile, was also already likely under his influence at this time, as strange things had started happening in the Lost Woods, and they were teeming with monsters. It was cursed by the presence of Phantom Ganon and other malicious spirits that roamed its halls. After Ganondorf acquired the Triforce of Power, he returned to Hyrule and laid waste to Hyrule Castle Town and the castle itself. A battle ensued where the castle soldiers were killed by demons, likely summoned forth by Ganondorf. The town was reduced to rubble and the castle was completely destroyed. A huge crater only remained wherein floated an outcropping of rock. Ganondorf built his castle on top of this rock, which became known as Ganon's Castle. The inner sanctum of the castle, a large tower that stood in its center, was protected by a barrier that could only be dispelled by 6 of the 7 sages. The tower itself came to be home to powerful demons, as well as iron knuckles that were presumably imported from the Spirit Temple. Ganondorf in time grew into a more demonic creature. His golden Gerudo eyes turned a sickly green, with yellow sclera, and his blood became green, like that of some demons. He also let his hair grow out and started wearing a cape. Zelda, meanwhile, came out of her hiding place as the years went on, traveling around Hyrule while under the guise of Sheik, the Sheikah boy, who carried a harp passed down in the royal family. Above Ganon's castle and the castle town ruins, centered on the castle, came to float many dark clouds that permanently darkened the skies. Redads also came to infest the town ruins, likely the revived corpses of people that Ganondorf killed during his attack on the town. One of the guardhouses near the town's moat came to be occupied by an eccentric Poe collector, who bought Poe souls, spirits of concentrated hatred, for money, and who welcomed Ganondorf's reign. Most people living in Hyrule Castle Town managed to escape, however, and settled in Kakariko Village. These include the Old Man in Blue, the 2 Joking Men, the Gazing Man, Begging Man, the Bearded Man, the Dancing Couple, the Dog-Owning Lady, though her dog Richard passed away at some point, the Bazaar Owner, Medicine Shop Owner, and the Shooting Gallery Owner. Other people who are known to have survived Ganondorf's onslaught are the Man in White who gazed at Hyrule Castle at night, the many market goers, the market vendors, the man carrying a bag around, the proprietress of the Bomb Chew bowling alley, the Happy Mask salesman, and the Bomb Chew shop owner. None of these people settled in Kakariko, but are shown to have survived during a party held in London Ranch during the credits. It also does not account for all the residents of Hyrule Castle Town. with the missing ones presumably having died or relocated elsewhere. Ganondorf would eventually also go on to curse the 3 remaining temples of Hyrule, likely in order to counteract the prophecy connected to them that told of the Hero of Time awakening a new generation of sages to oppose him. The Forest Temple, as discussed before, was likely already cursed before Ganondorf became the Demon King. However, the influence of this curse spread further after he ascended the throne. The Great Deku Tree, whose influence protected the woods, had died due to the curse placed on him by Ganondorf. This allowed monsters like Mad Scrubs, Skulltulas, Octoroks, and Big Deku Babas to invade Kokiri Forest. Due to this, the Kokiri were confined to their homes. Mido, the self-proclaimed leader of the Kokiri, told the other Kokiri that Link, who had last spoken to the Deku Tree prior to his death, was responsible for said death. Saria was the only one to defend Link, but she left at some point to investigate the Forest Temple, but she was captured by monsters. Mido followed her and promised her not to let anyone through the woods to reach the Forest Temple, only allowing her friends to do so. They also came to regret how he acted to Link as time went on. A skull kit that had been given the skull mask by Link also vanished from the woods during the 7-year time skip, perhaps connected to the events of Majora's Masks in this timeline, wherein a skull kit with a fascination with scary masks almost destroyed the parallel world of Termina. The Fire Temple, located in the caves near the top of Death Mountain, came to house Volvagia. This was an ancient dragon that ate Gorons and had been killed by a Goron with the Megaton hammer in the distant past. Ganondorf revived the beast and had his men round up the Gorons to feed them to the dragon, to set an example to anyone who might oppose him. This was done while their boss, Darunia, was out and they were imprisoned in cells within the Fire Temple. The clouds of the mountain changed from white to orange to reflect this crisis, as the clouds were said to do so. The only Gorons that remained in Goron City were Medi Goron, the Goron shop owner, and Darunia's son Link, who was born during the time skip and named after Link because he had saved the Gorons from starvation before Ganondorf came to power. To stop this crisis, and to prevent Volvagia from further threatening the world, Darunia made his way to the Fire Temple. Aside from these Gorons, Big Goron, who lived near Death Mountain's peak, was also spared the fate of imprisonment, likely due to his size. The Water Temple was also cursed, and came to house the giant amoeba Morpha. This curse affected both Lake Hylia, in which the temple was located, and Zora's domain. The lake was drained of most of its water, and so stood mostly dry. On one of the lake's shores stood the scarecrows Pierre and Bonuru. Pierre had always wanted to wander around Hyrule in search of soul-moving tunes, so he did so, leaving Bonuru alone. The owner of the nearby fishing hole also went bald during the 7 years, and hid this fact by wearing a cap. Zora's domain, Zora's fountain above it, and the entrance to the domain from Lake Hylia meanwhile, all froze due to the curse placed on the Water Temple. Most Zoras were trapped under the ice, and portions of the domain were also frozen in red ice, a type of hot ice found most commonly in the ice cavern near Zora's fountain. Most notably, the entrance to the Zora shop and King Zora XVI were frozen in this ice. Lord Jabu Jabu, patron deity of the Zoras, also disappeared from Zora's fountain, likely due to the drop in temperature. The only Zora to be saved from a freezing fate was Princess Ruto, who was saved from under the ice by Sheik. After this, she went off to the Water Temple to rid it of its curse. The Shadow Temple, which lay in a cave beyond the graveyard of Kakariko Village, was cursed by the presence of the demon Bongo Bongo. Impa fought this creature and sealed it beneath the well of Kakariko Village, which was home to a dungeon. She also presumably placed a rock that appears at this dungeon's entrance after the time skip to keep the demon sealed. However, the evil climate ruling in Hyrule and various curses on the temples caused more posts to appear in the graveyard. Impa thus went into the Shadow Temple once more to seal monsters at some point. In these years also, in Kakariko Village, family consisting of the soldier who guarded the Death Mountain Trail, his wife and his son who often played in the graveyard, disappeared and their fate remains unknown. In their former house, the bazaar from Hyrule Castle Town was re-established. In the house across the street, a vacant shop, the medicine shop, was re-established. Over time, the construction works in the village were completed as well, and in the finished building, a new shooting gallery was established. During the 7 years, the gravekeeper Dampe of Kakariko village also passed away and was buried in the very graveyard he had tended to. The spirit lingered, however, waiting for someone to enter his grave to claim the hookshot that he had found buried in the graveyard while he was alive. One of the joking men saw the spirit rise out of the grave once, but his friend did not believe him. When their work in Kakariko village was done, the carpenters, responsible for reconstruction, moved on to Gerudo Valley in a tent. However, the lazy carpenters, Ichiro, Jiro, Saburo, and Shiro, ran off to become thieves, thinking it was cool and would give them easy money. They were captured and imprisoned by the Gerudo, leaving their leader stranded in the valley because the Gerudo also broke the bridge. His old lady, who ran the original potion shop in Kakariko, and his daughter, who tended to cuckoos in the village, remained there while his son went to the Lost Woods, likely due to his disgust with humanity. The craftsman had left his saw with his old lady, who in turn had given it to the boy who went to the woods. The running man, who usually trailed Hyrule Field, had gone to Gerudo Valley as well in this time frame, to run in the haunted wasteland, but found the time wasn't right, and came to be stranded due to the broken bridge. The Gerudo themselves mostly carried on as before, as neither Ganondorf's rule over Hyrule, or the curse on the Spirit Temple in the form of Kum and Kotake's operations there, seemed to cause much change in their situation. The final area that was affected by Ganondorf's rule was that of Hyrule Field and Lon Ranch, which lay on the field. Before Ganondorf's reign, stealth children would rise on Hyrule Field at night, likely leftover corpses from the many wars fought during Hyrule's early years. This ceased happening at some point and instead, 10 big Poes started to roam the field. Lon Ranch, meanwhile, was taken over by the farmhand Ingo, who threw the lazy owner, Talon, out. Talon went to Kakariko village, where he spent most of his days sleeping, and rumors about the situation spread in town. Ganondorf meanwhile recognized Ingo's talent. The new ranch owner acknowledged him as the rightful Demon King. As ranch owner, Ingo charged fees for people to ride horses around the ranch and also forced Malon, Talon's daughter, to do a lot of the work. He was also to raise a fine horse for Ganondorf in exchange for the recognition he got, and Ingo selected Epona for this purpose, though she was not very willing in this regard, given her fierce nature. This scenario might also imply that the horse Ganondorf rode on in the past, a black Gerudo stallion, passed away in the intervening years. Hyrule thus came to be in a dire state during these years. Its capital was decimated, demons ran amok due to the evil climate in the country, darkness poured out of the temples of the land that laid curses on its regions, and the people of the kingdom had to suffer under the iron fist of the Demon King Ganondorf. This video gave an overview of what happened to the people of Hyrule during these long 7 years, and how Ganondorf ruled. However, the tide changed after 7 years, when Link at last awoke from his slumber and set out on a quest to fulfill the prophecy of the 5 temples, awaken the 7 sages, and seal the Demon King away. Those who were to become sages had already largely moved into place by the time Link awoke, and Ganondorf bided his time, waiting for the holders of the Triforce of Wisdom and the Triforce of Courage to reveal themselves. That is perhaps a story for another time. I hope you enjoyed this look at the story of Ocarina of Time's timeskip and how the 2 time periods of the game connect. Until next time, goodbye.